Hi legends, and especially my fellow Crusaders, that I know that you guys are been searching for the new PvP build, so you guys can go and have some fun on your Crusader, because you probably are tired, the same as I am, of the shield glare meta. Every time that I come back to the Crusader, it is all at the shield glare meta, but hopefully this time we actually gonna change the meta, because this build right here, it has so much burst potential. And not only that, from a perspective of a free-to-play player or low resonance, is actually awesome, because you can actually one-shot your enemies even outside of the screen. So you're gonna be able to do a tremendous amount of burst. You also still have the capability of going in if you want, but the reality is like you don't have to, because as long as you hit them once, you're pretty much gonna get like this huge lightning shocker thunderbolt. It is absolutely insane, with a lot of damage coming involved and pretty much just killing your enemy. So here I was just testing it out. I tested it in the Battlegrounds. I also tested it out here in the Tower War, and I found out that it works extremely well. Yes, a few tanky players, like for example here the Golem, might take like a two shot, or maybe if it is like a high resonance, well, maybe it's still gonna take a while for them to die, but pretty much you're still gonna be able to do a lot of damage. So if you saw, this guy right here, he still had my dodge, my damage over time, and once he left the raid form, after I triggered here my Fist of Thunder, the dots procced on him, and he actually got the lightning, and like that he got a one shot. It is actually very strong, and I can't wait to actually go and show you the build, because you guys gonna have a blast. I'm gonna show you everything that you need to do, because you actually are gonna have to try this, because like otherwise you're gonna be missing out. So let's go here into the skills, because this is gonna use the Condemned with the new Ancestrals in Inferno 8. And I know, before you guys go into the comment, I know it does not trigger with the torrential refrain, the offhand. Hopefully they're gonna fix that, because it is gonna make even stronger this build. Then we have here the Falling Sword. This is gonna be important for you to have a AoE ability, area of effect ability around you, to apply the damage without having to dive in. Then we're gonna use the Fist of Heaven, which is pretty much the main source of damage that we also gonna do, and the Conjuration of Light, which is the bubble that's gonna make you immune. Now here into the Ancestrals, we are using here in something very important, because you guys have to understand the concept of this build, otherwise it may not work if you don't have certain requirements. The first one, it is gonna be, you wanna use the Inferno 7 helmet, which your Fist of Thunder now is gonna empower you with lightning, and whenever your next skill hits the enemy, you're actually gonna be able to go and get these lightning bolts. And where is this skill coming from? Well, it is coming from the Harmonic Collide, which is the new Condemned Inferno 8 Ancestrals that is gonna empower you, causing lightning to strike the enemies after them getting attacked 3 times. And this is when the damage over time is gonna come into the place. So you're gonna be able to have a bleed, a burn, or whatever is the dots that you're using, and then as they keep taking on the player, they actually is gonna have a harmonic collide coming on the target. So for example, here I'm gonna turn on the Condemn, and if I attack the target, you guys gonna be able to see, because of my dots, there is this infinite chain of lightning storms coming into the place. And then whenever we actually gonna be able to combine the Condemn together with the Fist of Thunder, well, you're gonna see this huge burst. So Condemn first, then we're gonna have here the Fist of Thunder, and whenever you're gonna attack the target, doesn't need to be with a primary attack, with a Falling Sword, all of a sudden you get this huge burst. And the thing is, I don't even need to be near the target to actually drop the thunders. Like if you guys see, I'm gonna do like this damage here outside, and even if he's not on my screen, I'm able to just do damage to the dummy, even if the dummy is here right at the corner outside of the screen. And yes, you are able to actually kill players outside of your screen, and that's the power of this build, and that's why it's actually super strong. Then we're gonna use here on our shoulders the Bale Protector, which the Falling Sword is gonna create a shield around you, which is gonna make you immune to loss of control and knockback while you have the shield, and this shield cannot be triggered more than every 2 seconds, so it is pretty strong. And I like to have some defensive mechanisms, especially whenever you have, for example, a Necro or a Tempest trying to jump on you. But if you want to go with a bit more aggressive, even though I will not recommend, you still have, for example, here the Kyrgyzstan Sunrise, which every time that you're your falling sword is gonna hit the target 3 times, you actually have some extra damage. But personally, I will just go with this one. Then you have here the Scorn the Pawn. This one, it is that the Fist of Heaven is now gonna stun the shocked enemies for 3 seconds. And you see, okay, but why are we getting the shock? Well, the shock, it is actually coming because we are using the 2 pieces Skybreaker, that the bonus is that whenever we gonna deal damage to a target, it's gonna unleash a lightning blast that it is gonna be able to apply shock in all the enemies. So whenever you're gonna apply this shock and then you're gonna use the Fist of Heavens, you're actually gonna be able to go and get this stun. So they get a huge burst, and on top of that they get CC'd for 3 seconds. So very powerful, but of course it cannot be used in more than 4 seconds. But the reality is, inside PvP, you know, you're gonna have like higher cooldowns. So every time that you're gonna have the new cooldown of your Fist of Heavens, you're gonna be able to apply another stun with another huge burst. So super strong. Then we have here the Luminous Rain, which is pretty much the one that is gonna create this area of effect around you. This is like so massive that you're actually allowed for you to have and keep some distance without having to dive in like a crazy maniac. Then we are using the Wretch Speller, that this one is gonna use your punishment, that is gonna apply a mark on the target. It's gonna increase your movement speed and your allies. So this is like whenever you actually gonna get engaged on, or like you have a barb coming in. So then you're just gonna hit like 1 time on the target and pretty much you just wanna run, so you can kite them a bit faster. So not only it's gonna be good for you, but also for everyone around you. Then we're gonna use here for the offense, we are using the Doom Parade, which pretty much is gonna increase the critical hit chance by 90% of your Condemned. Very strong, also giving the damage, the cooldown reduction. Then we are using here the Condemn, that is gonna reduce the movement speed by 40%. So whenever the target it is even out of your screen and they are trying to run away, yes, the Falling Sword is gonna apply here 30% of slow. But if the guy is trying to run away, you're Condemned. If you have dots on the target, you see the lightning bolts are still gonna be able to keep applying it, and it is super strong. So they're gonna be slow, and like that you're still gonna be able to go and chase them down and pretty much get the kill. So this is pretty much how it works. Also, it's got a very cool for you to have the 20% cooldown reduction if you don't have a lot. Now here for the set items, well, it is where the magic is gonna happen, because it's gonna be very important. The first thing is gonna be that you're gonna be able to use the 4 pieces augments. Every time that you're gonna do damage to the target, you're gonna apply a burning effect, and this burning effect, when it keeps thinking, and you're actually gonna trigger more harmonic collide procs on the target. Super strong. This 2 pieces Skybreaker, well, as I said, it is to apply damage and also to make them shock so they get stunned. And then the rest, it is gonna be the 2 pieces Vitus Urge, so you can increase the beneficial effects durations on your build by 30%. Not only that, it also is gonna increase the legendary gems by 30%. So very strong. Then we have here, when it comes to the legendary gem setup, there is multiple ways you can build this up. So you can go like with a full potency, absolutely god killer, only using damage over time, or you can go with a bit more hybrid and also with a bit of utility. That's the one I went with. So the first one that I'm using, it is the Mother's Lament, which is gonna give me that huge crit, so you can have that huge burst right whenever the target is trying to engage. That's why I get that one-shot potential. Then I'm gonna use also the Blood Flow, which is gonna increase my critical hit damage, my damage, but also is gonna apply the bleed, which is gonna make that lightning bolt proc more often. Then we're gonna have the Colossus, which is gonna increase our size, also is gonna increase the skill range, and above all is gonna give us 27% skill damage, which is gonna be very important because all of our damage, it is basically skill damage. Then I'm still using the Black Rose. Is a defensive gem that whenever they try to engage on me, they actually gonna get immobilized. Very good and underrated inside PvP. It saved my ass a lot of times. Then you have here the Roiling Consequence, which is gonna apply a burning effect, plus it's gonna give you crit, and critical hit damage is gonna help again with all those lightning bolts and the one-shot potential. Bloodsoaked Jade is mainly here to give us the passive 10% movement speed and a bit of damage. Then we have the Bottle Hope, and I'll say the Bottle Hope in the Crusader, if you are a Crusader main, is actually one of the few exceptions of the classes, because in PvP you have no movement speed, and even using it as a rank 4, even if I hate it, you know, I'm mainly using it for the movement speed buff, because the Crusader, it is very slow. Also, it gives you know, 1.5 skill cooldown reduction, which is not bad, and the damage, well, it is what it is. Then the other one that we are using, it is here, the Faltered Grasp. This is mainly to try to counter, you know, the Wizard and the Demon Hunters and like the Werewolves and all these metas, because everyone is using dashes, so it is very strong. If you guys want a few alternatives of, you know, gems that you guys can replace with, try to replace with gems that it is gonna be beneficial for you to have more damage over time. So for example, here the Misery Elixir is gonna increase the duration of the damage over time on the target by 24%, so that's gonna be very strong, so you keep pinging and getting that Condemn damage on the target. You can also use the Entropic Well, which is gonna increase the skill damage, very strong. You also have here the Everlasting Torment. Whenever you're gonna apply a crit, you're actually gonna have a damage over time on the target. Obviously you have here the Crimson Bahility, which is gonna give you damage, apply fear, damage reduction, very strong. Then we also have here, for example, the Starfire Shard, which is gonna apply some meteors, dropping them from the floor and apply some burning damage. But there is also more. That here we have the Viper's Bite, that every time that you're gonna attack the target, it is gonna give this poison. You also have the Pain class for Fervent Fang, Spectral Glass. Well, you have a bunch of like options that you are actually, even as a free-to-play, that you're gonna be able to replace these gems and make like the best of it. If you have my recommendations, if you have any of these gems, Viper's Bite and Everlasting, slot them in, because it's gonna be very good for you. Now let's go here into the Paragon. Well, at this stage, because I'm not going like completely in, I like to actually play with the Brawler, because it's gonna give like this increased size and by 8%, which is gonna make me like bigger and faster for me to kite around. Also, we are using here the Soul Harvested, which is like very nice. But if you're like someone that still likes to dive in and go like completely crazy, maybe, you know, using like something like the Gladiator may be a better choice for you. But with this playstyle, most likely I will recommend you guys to use the Brawler, because it's still gonna make you slightly tanky, but above all, it's gonna give you some movement speed. Now we have here, when it comes to the Warband Room, well, you guys already know, when it comes to PvP, you want to try to always go with a Protector, which is gonna increase your block chance by 5%, and above all, you want to try to have here the Shepherd's Burden, which is gonna increase your size by 15% and your life by 60%, and try to also have the Aven's Burden, because it's gonna give you a 6% shield of your total life. Still very strong, and actually comes very clutch. Then we have here the Familiar. Well, there is only one Familiar that you actually gonna be able to play, and it is your Savior Pet. If you still don't have your Savior Pet, well, try to get it, because it is essential. Especially, it's gonna be like a night and day experience inside the Battleground. It gives you an immunity, a cheat dead for 3.3 seconds, and as you keep increasing the resilience above 170, you're actually gonna be able to decrease this from 75 seconds cooldown up to 60 seconds cooldown. So it's like a cheat dead every minute. Obviously it gets very expensive. This is the one I have. I think it cost me like around 30k plat at the time, so I'm still satisfied. It still works, but obviously doesn't matter which one is the pet. If you want to go for the cat, probably it's gonna be super expensive. Now let's go here into the runes, because this is actually very important. You have here on your shoulders and your helmets just two options. Obviously, if you have the oath, it is gonna be very important, because Crusaders, they scales with the skill cooldown reduction. Then you have the tier, also very important, because you know it's gonna increase your beneficial effect duration. And when you are playing with a Crusader, these substats, especially skill cooldown reduction and the beneficial effect duration, are the ones that you should always try to aim for. Now we have here the Lev, which, you know, it is the legendary gem that can increase your critical hit damage by 6%. But if you don't have it as a Crusader, try to slot 2 Essay, which is the Blood Rune, which is gonna give you 3% passive movement speed. So you put this passive movement speed here on your runes, so then on your set items you can actually have cooldown reductions, for example here on your rings. So 4% cooldown reduction damage done to the targets. I also have here 5% skill cooldown reductions. On my gloves, I have skill cooldown reductions and damage to enemies suffering a loss of control, and because we're applying slows and also the stun. Then you have here the necklace with still skill cooldown reduction, which makes me actually have at this stage a crazy amount of like 26.5% cooldown reduction right now on my Crusader, and makes it like way more viable to play any type of Crusader build. That's why I keep saying that Crusader, it is definitely a build or a character, a class that you really want to have an account more or less build up. At the beginning of the game, it's actually quite hard to make like Crusader become like really good, because you just miss like a few requirements to actually make it perform in the late game. Then we also have here the other rune, which is the zoo for the 4% critical hit chance. And then obviously here on the pants, I try to go with the last, which is gonna give me this extra 20% shield, very strong. And on the chest piece, well, I have the fox, which is gonna give me this endured evasion rating that usually I try to go with this helmet to the grave runner. This is actually gonna give me this extra evasion rating, loss of control duration is reduced, and also damage taken from player, which is gonna make me slightly more tanky. And every time that I'm gonna evade, I'm actually gonna get this extra shield, which comes very clutch, because right now, you know, the problem with the Crusader is that it is still does a lot of damage, but if you get caught, is actually still slightly squishy if you get caught without the bubbles. So I really like to play a bit more defensive. And also something that I really want to give you a big attention to, it is like this restraint substat, that your skills actually have 6% chance of pulling the enemies towards you, and sometimes that's actually really good because they are trying to escape from you, and you have your falling sword or you have the Feast of Thunder, and all of a sudden they come to you. Very strong. Also, it can be used in the whirlwind meta for the barbarian. I really like it since I started the experience with it. Here, when it comes to the course properties, I am honestly just still using the 6 pieces that tested, because I'm doing a lot of PvE. But if I went to change these, I probably will go with 6 pieces nettled and 2 pieces ghost, or 2 pieces of trophy or something like that, because that's probably what is gonna perform the best inside the PvP. Then you also have here, when it comes to the charm, I try to go with something like a falling thunder, or you can also have the Feast of Heavens, or something that is going to give you more potential here for the damage on your build. And then obviously here on the Helliquary, as you guys already know, if you already watch my guides, try to always go with the fortitude and willpower only, so you actually go and boost your secondaries, because the fortitude and willpower will increase the secondaries. Whenever it comes to secondaries, I try to go with armor penetration, potency, and resistance. These are my focus, and obviously I still have a lot of armor, because, you know, like whenever you have a lot of potency and willpower, you're actually going to be able to perform way better. So this is what I try to focus. And last but not the least, well, we have also as well the legacy of Horadrim, which I am focusing on 31 on the potency, 31 on potency and resistance, 31 on resistance, and then I put the leftovers in the armor pen and armor. So this is the state of my account. I hope that you guys enjoyed this build. This build was actually a blast. I tried a lot of them. You also have another alternative that if you guys want to just have fun, it is a bit of a meme, but it can actually work still very well. So you can replace your Luminous Rain with a main hand that is called the Tumult. This one is actually gonna give you like a Blade Storm, that whenever you're gonna have your Condemned and also your Feast of Heaven, and then you're just gonna drop this on the area, you're actually gonna do a tremendous amount of damage. And actually here on my stream yesterday, I just have a clip of me trying this build with this main hand, and well, there was this literally highlight that happens, that whenever I go here, you guys are gonna see here in the top corner, there's all of these guys, and I'm gonna use the Falling Thunder in the middle of them, and like that, you're gonna see this Blade Storm doing a lot of damage and pretty much killing everyone, and just like dropping all those dots. So very fun build. It is also a different alternative that you can guys go and try. It has a very very high cooldown, this second variation, but you can still have some fun and enjoy. Crusader, at the end of the day, it is a class that this stage still performs pretty well, but it is not like at the highest like SS tier compared to other demon hunters, you know, werewolves and like a wizard and all these things. But if you still like the Crusader, you probably can still have some fun and enjoy. So guys, if you're still here at this time, this is the secret call out. Don't forget to type cheese in the comments, so you guys are the legends to keep carrying these channels. And with this, like, subscribe, and go watch the next video. Peace.